Good evening, all of you. In the last session, we completed our discussion related to VI command and the sed command. Today, we are going to talk about file permissions in the Linux. Today, we are going to talk about very important topic in the Linux, that is called file permissions. All right. Generally, we will use files to store the data. In order to protect our data available in the file, we need to secure our files. We can secure our files using file permissions in Linux. We will use files to store the data. In order to protect our data, we need to secure our files. We can secure our files using file permissions in Linux. Now, let us try to understand why we need to secure our files in the Linux. Let us try to understand why we need to secure our files in the Linux. Now assume that, guys, I have taken one EC2 instance with the Linux operating system. In that EC2 instance, I have installed one server. Inside that server, I'm deploying my application. In the EC2 server, in the EC2 instance, I'm taking one server. In that server, I'm installing my application. For running my application, I need to configure some database details. I need to configure security details. I need to configure application messages. I need to configure SMTP details. I need to configure Kafka details. I need to configure Redis details. For all these things, I'm taking one configuration file also. Application is available. Application configuration is available. Application configuration, I'm keeping in the separate file. Application is running in the server. Whenever we start the application will load this configuration file and will establish the connections to run our applications. Now here, Linux is a multi-user operating system. That means multiple users can connect to Linux machine at a time. Inside the Linux machine, I'm keeping my application and I'm keeping my application configuration. Now, there are 4 members available in the team who is performing DevOps operations on the project. There are 4 members are available who are performing operations on the application deployments. Okay, our application running inside a server which is installed in the Linux operating system. So this is my Linux machine. In the Linux machine, my server is available and my server is having an application. Application is talking to configuration file to load the application configurations. Application reading the config data from a file, db config, mail config, security config and all. Now, can we allow everybody to modify this configuration file? Are you going to allow everybody to modify the configuration file of your application which is available in the Linux machine? Guys, tell me, can you allow everybody to modify configuration data of your application, or we should not allow everybody to modify configuration data of our application? Is it a good practice to allow everybody to modify configuration file of our application? We should not allow everybody to modify configuration file of our application. We should not allow everybody to modify configuration file of our application. That's not a good practice. Okay, we should not allow everybody to access config file because it is having sensitive data. We should not allow everybody to access config file because it is having sensitive data. Now, as we have 4 members in the team, we should allow only experienced members to modify the file, and freshers can see the file, but they should not modify the file. That is my requirement. Guys, can you see my point now? My application running inside a server, my application talking to a configuration file. This all application and configuration files available in the Linux machine. There are 4 team members are working on the Linux machine. In these 4 team members, 2 members are freshers, 2 members are experienced. Can we allow everybody to modify the config file data? No, my requirement is only experienced DevOps engineers can modify the file data, whereas freshers can see only file data, freshers should not be able to modify the file data. That is what the restriction I want to apply for my configuration files because of security reasons. Are you able to follow me? Freshers should be able to only read the data. They should not be able to write the data to the file. Whereas experienced people should be able to read and write the data in the file. Experienced people should be able to read and write the data in the file. Freshers should not be able to write the data. Freshers only should read the data. Freshers only should read the data. Do you understand my point? Do you understand my requirement now? Do you understand my requirement now? Now, the reason for that is, if we allow the freshers to modify the file, they may do some mistakes in the config file. Freshers means they don't have experience. If we give total permissions for the freshers, if they modify the file by mistake, if the configuration is modified, then the total project will be collapsed. The total project will be collapsed. If they give wrong configuration in the configuration file, then the total project will be collapsed. So that is the reason I want to secure this configuration file. Freshers should not be able to modify the file, whereas experienced persons should be able to modify the file. That's where file permissions comes in the Linux. That's where we are going to deal with file permissions in the Linux. Are you guys able to understand what is our today's topic? Today's topic is how to deal with the file permissions in Linux operating system. What is a file? File is used to store the data. Now, when we store the data in the file, some files may have sensitive data. That means the data is very crucial for our application. The data is very important. Now, when we are storing sensitive data in the files, we should be able to secure those files. We should be able to secure those files. For that purpose, we are going to use file permissions. Why we need to secure the files? I have given a use case. I have my application running in the EC2 machine. I have taken one EC2 machine. In that EC2 machine, I have a Linux operating system. In the Linux operating system, my project is running. For my project, there is a configuration file. All the application related configuration available in the config file. Now, this is a Linux machine. Linux machine is a multi-user operating system. That means multiple users can connect to this machine. Multiple users can perform the operations on the machine. Now, there are 4 people available, 4 people working on the same application. 4 people DevOps team is available. 4 people DevOps team is available. They all are working on the same project. Now, can we allow everybody to modify that file? Is it a good practice to allow everybody to modify the file? It is not at all good practice to allow everybody to modify the file. So what is my requirement? In these 4 people, 2 people are experienced and 2 people are freshers. 2 people are experienced, 2 people are freshers. Experienced people should be able to modify the file. Freshers should only read the file data. How can we control? Freshers can read the data, experienced people can read and write the data. That's where file permissions comes into picture. Now, guys, do you know how to check the files available in the given directory? Can you tell me how can I list down the files available in the present working directory? Which command I need to execute to list down the files here? Can I go for ls command? If I go for ls, just file names are displaying 1.txt, 2.txt, 3.txt. I want to perform long listing of the files. How can I do long listing of the files? By using ls-l command. ls-l command. Now can you see the long listing of the files are displaying? Can you see the long listing of the files are displaying? Yes, the long listing of the files are displaying. Now, whenever you do the long listing of the files, can you see here it is displaying -rw, -r. Can you see now? Let me create one more folder. Like is AWS DevOps. I'm creating directories, ls-l. Now, can you see here, guys? There are some files available and there are some directories are available. How can you understand whether this is a file or this is a directory? If this is starting with character D, that means it is a directory. If it is starting with a D, it is a directory. If it is starting with a hyphen, that means it is a file. So can I say in the present working directory, I have files and directories? Can I say that I have both files and directories in the present working directory? Yes, we have both files and directories in the present working directory. Directory starts with D and file starts with hyphen. File starts with hyphen. So the first character represents type of the file. So whenever you go for long listing, the first character represents the type of the file. It is a directory file. Second one is also a directory file. Third one is a text file. I mean normal file. Fourth one is also a normal file. Fifth one is also a normal file, because the last three files are starting with hyphen. First two files are starting with D. D means directory. Hyphen means normal file. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Now, after the first character, can you see here RWX, RWX, R-X? Can you see something here? RWX, RWX, RWX. That RWX, RWX is called as file permission. It is called as file permission. R represents read permission, W represents write permission, X represents execute permission. Whenever you do long listing, every file will start with the first character that represents type of the file. RWX will be available as file permissions. R means read permission, that file is having a read permission, that file is having a write permission. X means that file is having a execute permission. Hyphen means that file doesn't have any permission. Read, write, execute, and no. Character R represents read permission. Character W represents write permission. Character X represents execute permission. Hyphen represents no permission. Okay. Sir, here R available, W available, X available, but why they are repeated again? Why they are repeated again? RWX, again RWX, again R-X. Why they are repeated? The file permission is divided into three sections, guys. They are called as three segments. RWX is divided into this file permission. The file permission divided into three segments. First segment is called as user permissions on the file. First section is called as user permission. Second section is called as group permission. Third section is called as others permission on the file. So that file permissions are divided into three parts. Part 1 represents user permissions on the file. Part 2 represents group of users permissions on the file. Part 3 represents others permissions on the file. Part 3 represents others permissions on the file. Are you guys able to understand now? Are you guys able to understand what is happening here? D directory file, RWX, first section, user permissions. RWX, second section, group permissions. R-X, third section, it is others permission. Similarly, RWX, user permission. RWX, group permissions. R-X, others permission. Here only RW- user permission. RW- user permission. R- others permission. Similarly here, RW- user permission. RW- group permission. R- others permission. Same thing for this also. File permission characters are three. R means read permission. W means write permission. X means execute permission. If there is a hyphen, that means no permission. Now here every file permission is having three segments. First one represents user permission, second one represents group permission, third one represents other permission, user, group, and others. Now, if you see, can you read this use case? Hyphen, rw hyphen, rw hyphen, r hyphen, hyphen space f1.txt. Can you tell me who is having which permission on the f1 file? Can you read these three sections? Who is having which permissions on that file? First section contains what? RW hyphen, read, write, execute. That means user is having what permission? First section contains RW hyphen. That means user having only read and write permissions. RW, read, write, hyphen. That means X is not there. There is no execute permission for the user on that file. That is the meaning of the first section. Come to second section, RW hyphen. Second section, RW hyphen. That means group having only read and write permission, no execute permission for the group. Now, third section, R hyphen hyphen. Third section contains R hyphen hyphen. That means others having only read permission, WX not available. In the place of WX hyphen hyphen is there. That means no write permission, no execute permission for the others. Guys, are you able to understand group permission, others permission, and user permission now? User permission, group permission, others permission on that file now. I'm repeating once again. Working with file permissions. When we execute ls-l command, we can see file permission information. Now, first character you ignore. First character represents the type of the file. D means directory, hyphen means ordinary. After that, RWX will be available. R means read permission, W means write permission, X means execute permission, hyphen means no permission. Okay, in that permission also, three segments are available. Three sections, or we can say three segments. First section represents user permissions on the file. Second section represents group permissions on the file. Third section represents others permissions on the file. RWX. Now I have given this use case. Hyphen, RW hyphen, RW hyphen, R double hyphen F1.txt. First section contains RW hyphen. That means read, write for user, no execute. Second section RW hyphen. That means for group also read, write, no execute. Third section R hyphen hyphen. Read permission, no write and execute permissions. No write and execute permissions for this. Now similarly, I have given this thing, guys. F2.txt. Three segments I have separated. Can you tell me what permissions user is having? What permissions others are having? What permission group is having for F2.txt? Can you look at this box? Can you look at this box and can you tell me who is having which permission in this file? Munib, you are wrong, man. Check it properly. Check it properly. I have given F2.txt. Who is having what permission? Who is first section represents user. Second section represents group. Third section represents others. You tell me who is having which permissions on this file. All people are not responding. People are not responding. Be active. Tell me who is having which permissions for the F2.txt. Mahesh, you are wrong, man. See, R-X, user having read and execute. User having read and execute R-X. That means read permission is there, execute permission is there for the user. Second section, group section, RW- group having read and write, no execute. Third section, others having only execute permission. Others having only execute permission. Now, can you see this? User having read and execute, no write. User having read and execute, because first section, this is the first section. First section contains 3 characters, R-X. Read is there, write is not there, but execute is there. User is having read permission and execute permission, no write permission. Write permission means modifying the file data. Execute means execute a program. Executing a program. Group, second section, read permission, write permission, no execute permission. Execute means whenever we have a shell script file, we execute the scripting file or not. You have a Java program, you are executing the Java program na, like that, execute permission will not be there. Tomorrow we are going to write shell script. That shell script they can't execute. Okay. First section contains RX. That means user having read and execute, no write permission. Group contains read and write, no execute. User don't have write permission. Group don't have execute permission. Others don't have read and write permission. Others don't have read and write permission. Are you clear with this one? Are you clear with this one? Now, can I give you one more requirement? Can you tell me now? If I give you one more scenario, can you identify that now? Can you identify that now? -R RW W space f3.txt. Now you tell me, who is having which permission on the f3.txt, guys? Who is having which permission on the f3.txt? You guys tell me that. f3.txt file is available. Who is having which permission on the f3? Write it in a single message. Write it in a single message. User, what permissions are there? Group, what permissions are there? Others, what permissions are there? You write it. You write it. Come on, fast. Please involve in the session. First hyphen represents type of the file, guys. Don't consider the first hyphen. First hyphen I have given to confuse you. First hyphen is a type of the file. First hyphen is type of the file. So always what you need to do? You need to segregate it. You need to segregate it. First section, okay. Second section, first section, second section, and the third section. Are we able to divide them into 3 sections now? Are you able to divide them into 3 sections now? Who is having which permissions? User having only read. User having only read permission. Group having read and write permission. Group having read and write permission. Others having only write permission. Others having only write permission. Others having only write permission. Are you able to understand permissions of the file? How to understand the file permissions? How to understand the file permissions? Are you clear what is that RWX and hyphens? Now you see. LS hyphen L. LS hyphen L. Can you tell me who is having what permissions for 1.txt file? Can you tell me who is having what permissions for 1.txt file? 1.txt. Who is having what permission for 1.txt? Who is having what permissions for 1.txt file? This is 1.txt file. Who is having what permissions? User having read write, group having read write, others having only read. Now you see here the file permissions are there. First character represents the type of the file, usko chhod do. Now second one, first section RW hyphen, read is there, write is there, hyphen is there, X is missing, that means no execute. First section, 3 characters are considered as one section. First section contains read write, no execute. That means user having read write, no execute. Group also having read write, no execute. Others having only read permission. Others having only read permission. Now, are you able to understand these characters? Are you able to understand these characters? Now, can you tell me who is having what permissions for AWS directory? Who is having what permissions for AWS directly? Come on. Can you tell me who is having what permissions for AWS directory? Guys, please. As of now, these are the default permissions. I have not done any changes. These are the default. When you create a file or when you create a directory, these are the default permissions we are getting. Can you tell me who is having what permissions? First character D का means D meaning क्या है भाई? D का मतलब क्या है इधर? Why this D is available? It is representing it is a directory file. It is representing it is a directory file. Then RWX, first section RWX, second section RWX, third section RWX. समझे? User having all 3 permissions. Group is having all 3 permissions. Others having read and execute, no write permission. Perfect, guys. Perfect. Now you understood what is file permission in the Linux, how to understand file permissions, and what is RWX, what are user permissions, what are group permissions, what are others permissions. Are you able to understand this? Are you able to understand this? Easy, difficult. Easy, difficult. Both easy, na? Now, I want to change the permissions. I want to change the permissions. I made it easy for you, huh? Your teaching is easy. Your teaching is awesome. Wow, I'm getting good feedback, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm feeling proud with your comments. Thank you so much. Your voice is beautiful. Huh? Thank you, guys. Thanks for your love. Right. We understood. Someone is asking, are you from north or south? I am from south. I am from Andhra Pradesh. Okay, south. Okay, fine, good. Anyhow, that doesn't matter here. So are you able to understand my classes? That is important. We are Indians, guys. Don't worry about it. Okay. Fine. So we understood what are file permissions here. Now I want to make the changes to these file permissions. I want to make the changes to these file permissions. Now here, observe, user don't have write permission. Mana Telugoda. What are you speaking, man? Fine, good. Chalo. Here, user is having read write permission, but there is no execute permission. There is no execute permission. Got it? Now, how can we add permission for the user to execute the file? How can I add some permission? How can I remove some? Guys, people are keep on sending the message. Please speak in Telugu. Telugulo em మాట్లాడాలి బాబు? ఇక్కడ క్లాస్ లో ఉన్న అందరికీ తెలుగు రాదు. There are some people who are from north. They can't understand Telugu. So I can't speak in Telugu now. Okay? Because the people are here from different states. So people are here from different states. I'm speaking in a global language, that is English, so that everybody can understand. I know Telugu, I know Hindi, but those are not comfortable for the remaining people. That's why I'm teaching in. There are some people from other countries as well. From Africa, people are there. From Nigeria, from Barcelona, people are there. So I can't speak in Telugu or Hindi. I'm going with English. Please try to understand. Okay, fine, guys. Here, I have the file with permissions. Now I want to change the file permissions, guys. I want to add some execute permission for the user. I want to remove the permission for the group, or I want to add the permission for others. I want to remove the permission for others, like that. I want to make the changes for file permissions. In order to do that in the Linux, there is a command called chmod command. Change mode. Chmod stands for change mode. Okay. Now I want to change the file permission. Now see here. First I want to create a file, touch4.txt. That file is getting created. Can you see ls-l? What are the permissions available for 4.txt? User having read-write permission, group is having read-write permission, others are having only read permission. Now I want to modify the file permissions for users, for groups, for others. I want to modify file permissions. Which command I need to use to change the file permissions in the Linux? Which command I need to use to change the file permissions in the Linux? Come on, guys, please. Could you please type in the chat box? Be active. Which command I need to use to change the file permissions in the Linux? chmod command. By using chmod command, we can change the file permissions. Now, I want to add write permissions for the users for 1.txt. Can you tell me for 1.txt what permissions that the user is having? Only read-write permission is available for the user or not? Can I add execute permission for the user? Can I add execute permission for the user? Can I add execute permission for the user? Come on, guys. Can I add execute permission for the user? Then what command I need to execute? chmod for user add execute permission for 1.txt. U plus X. That means chmod is used to change the mode of the file. U plus X for user add the execute permission for 1.txt. Do you understand what is this command meaning? Chmod, change the mode. User plus X. U means user, plus means add, X means execute permission. For user, add the execute permission. Now, guys, see, before executing this command, what is the permission for the user on this file? Only read write. Now, what I'm doing, U plus X, I'm adding execute permission for the user. Now, can you see ls-l? Can you see ls-l? Can you see 1.txt now? Execute permission is added or not? Execute permission is added or not? Come on. Execute permission is added or not? Which command I have executed? chmod u plus X. For user, I have added execute permission. Now, for others, I want to add write permission on the file. In the 1.txt, I want to add the write permission for the others. Can you tell me the command now? For others, I want to add write permission. Chalo, first, can you type the command in the chat? My requirement for others, write command. For others, write permission. chmod, others means O, write permission means W, add O plus W. Adding write permission for others for 1.txt. For 1.txt. ls-l. Can you see 1.txt? Others are having write permission now. Others are having write permission now. Guys, come on. Others are having write permission. Very good. Now, on the same file, I want to remove read permission for the group. I want to remove read permission for the group. 1.txt. Can you tell me the command? Can you tell me the command? I want to remove read permission for the group. Very good. chmod read permission for group, read permission g-r 1.txt. For group, I'm minusing that read permission chmod group minus r. Before executing this command, can you see what permissions the group is having? Read write is available for the group. Read write available for the group. Now I am executing chmod g-r for 1.txt ls-l. Now can you see what permissions the group is having? Only write permission is there. Read chale gaya. We have removed read permission for the group on that file. So you understand how to add a permission and how to remove a permission for users, groups, and others, right? Now that is what I have discussed here. Add write permission for others on F3. Write permission for others. Others means W. Sorry, others means O. Write means W. O plus W. What is the meaning of O plus W? O means others, plus means add, W means write. O plus W meaning adding write permission for others. Okay. Now remove read permission for the group G minus R. What is the meaning of G minus R? Removing write permission for the group. U plus X. What is the meaning of U plus X, guys? What is the meaning of U plus X? What is the meaning of U plus X? Adding execute permission for the user. Adding execute permission for the user. Can you tell me what is this U minus W? U minus W. What is the meaning of U minus W? Can we speak in the Linux language now? U minus W. This is Linux language. U minus W. What is the meaning of U minus W? Removing write permission for user. Removing write permission for user. Remove write permission for user. Okay. Next one. I'm going for G plus X. G plus X. Linux language. G plus X. Tell me. Adding execute permission. Adding execute permission for group. Okay. Now O plus R. O plus R. Bhaiya, tell me what is the O plus R? Adding read permission for others. Adding read permission for others. Adding read permission for others. U minus W. U minus W already done, na? U minus X. U minus X. Come on. U minus X. Remove execute permission for user. Remove execute permission for user. Are you clear with file permissions now? What is the chmod command? What is the chmod command? Perfect. Could you please read these things? Could you please read the notes that I have prepared for file permissions? Now file permissions are easy. Now file permissions are easy in Linux. We cracked it. RWX- we cracked it. All of you comfortable with the file permissions? Yeah, next question. Can I give 2 permissions for the user at a time? Can we provide 2 permissions for the user at a time? Okay, I will come to that point. First, let's revise what we have learnt as of now. I think people are enjoying the subject. People are enjoying, right? Yeah. File permissions in Linux. Generally, we will use files to store the data. In order to protect our data, we need to secure our files. We can secure our files using file permissions in Linux. I have given one use case also to understand why should we deal with file permissions. 4 people are working on the same machine. There is a configuration file available in the machine. For 2 people, I want to give the only read access. For 2 people, I want to give only read and write access. For 2 people, only read access, because freshers are there, experienced people are there. For freshers, I want to give only read access. For experienced people, I want to give read and write access. All right. Now, so in order to understand existing file permissions of the file, we are going for ls-l command. ls-l command. ls-l will do long listing of the files. There we can see file permissions. Whenever you do ls-l, ignore the first character, because that first character will represent what type of a file it is. Whether it is a directory or whether it is a file, it is going to do that. It is going to represent that. Now, remaining, every file permission will have 3 segments. Every segment will contain 3 characters, right? 3 segments. First segment represents user permissions. Second segment represents group permissions. Third segment represents other permissions. R means read, W means write, X means execute, hyphen means no permission. File permission contains 3 segments. First, second, third. First section is user, second section is group, third section is others. Now, I have given 3 scenarios to understand what are the permissions available for the file. RW-, R-. Here, user having only read write, no execute. Group having read write, no execute. Others are having only read, no write and execute. Okay. Similarly, I have given the second file and third file. You guys are able to understand. F2, user having read and execute. Group having read write. Others having only execute. Coming to F3, user having only read. Group having read write. Others having only write permission. Like this, you can understand existing file permissions of the file in the Linux machine. Now, if you want to add the permission or if you want to remove the permission, then what is the command that we need to use in the Linux? There is a command called chmod command, change mode command, which is used to add the permission for the file or remove the permission for the file. In order to add the permission, we will use plus symbol. In order to remove the permission, we will use minus symbol. O plus W, that means adding, for the plus, left side one is to whom you want to give the permission, right side one, what permission. Plus left side will represent to whom, plus right side represents what permission. O plus W, for others, right permission. G minus R, for group, remove the right permission. U plus X, for user, add the execute permission. That is the meaning. Now, here we have seen U minus W, G plus X, O plus R, U minus X. So like this, we can play with file permissions by using chmod command. Are you guys comfortable? Now, guys, instead of this, there is a other option also to deal with the file permissions by using numeric mode. there is a concept called numeric mode we can follow to give the permissions. Okay, you can go for numeric mode also to give the permissions. Now CH mode 777. 17 represents read, write, and execute. 7 means read, write, execute. 0 means no permission. 1 means execute permission. 2 means write permission. 3 means execute and write permission. 4 means read permission. 5 means read and write, execute. Read and execute. 6 means read and write. 7 means read, write, execute. Now suppose for example, if I write 777, that means 7 means read, write, execute. User having read, write, execute. Group is having read, write, execute. Others also having read, write, execute. Here 7 represents read, write, execute for user. Second 7 for group. Third 7 for user. 777 will give all permissions for all. User will have a read, write permission, read, write, execute. Group having read, write, execute permission. Others also having read, write, execute permission. Now I want to remove execute permission from the group and write from others. Let's remove the execute from the group and write from other. 765. 7 means user having all. 765, user is having all. User is having all permissions. 6 means only read and write. 5 means only read and execute. Can you guys read this table? Yeah, guys. Can you see this? Numeric permissions. Instead of executing alphabets, you can go for numeric permissions also. We can go for numeric permissions like this. This is numeric permissions table. Numeric permissions table. Number and permission type. Number and permission type. Okay. For example, let's give every permission for all. Every permission for all. Then what it will become? 777. 777 means giving every permission for everybody. Now here 765. What is the meaning of 765? What is the meaning of 765? 7 means read, write, execute. 7 represents the first section. User will have read, write. 6 means read and write. Group is having only read and write. 5 means others, read and execute. Read and execute. What it will become? 765 means 765. Then the permission will be hyphen read, write, execute for users. 6 means read, write, no execute. 5 means read and execute. Like this. Like this. Okay. In the interview, they will ask these questions only. Numeric permissions. Numeric permissions. समझे? Can you guys practice these file permissions before coming to tomorrow's session? Can you guys practice these file permissions before coming to tomorrow's session? Come on, guys. Can you guys practice these commands before coming to tomorrow's session? File permissions in Linux. I will upload these notes into our website so that you can download these notes and you can practice before coming to tomorrow's session. I will upload this video also in the YouTube. You can go through this and you can practice once again. File permissions are very, very important. Tomorrow, we are going to deal with how to create the users in the Linux, how to add the user, how to create the users, how to create the groups in the Linux, how to add the user to the group, how to remove the user from the group. Those things that we are going to discuss in the tomorrow session, working with the user accounts, user groups. Okay, thank you guys. I will see you in the tomorrow session. Until then, bye bye. Good night. Take care.